Topic of this conversation is, are we governed by fate of circumstance or free will? Fate is the development of events thought to be beyond a person's control, while free will is the ability to act at one's own discretion. There may be a few things out of a person's control, but for the most part, the choices people make and things they do are completely of their own volition. Fate is not controlling people's actions, so although many people believe in fate, it's people's actions that lead to where they are. Fate versus free will is a very common theme in literature. One example of many is A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Bea. The book begins 2 years before war came to Sierra Leone. At this time, he was 10 years old. The idea of war was not even close to being on his mind. During that time, he spent his days with his friends singing and dancing to rap music. He wasn't malicious at all, but that changed once war finally reached Sierra Leone. Ishmael Jr. and Taloy went to Ishmael's grandmother's house before returning home to find that an attack was made. They retreated and continued to move away from their home, already seeing the gore of the attack that reached their home. Later in the book, Ishmael and two of his friends, Musa and Josiah, are captured, and Ishmael is forced to watch as they kill two of his closest friends. That, along with the drugs they gave him, was enough for him to be manipulated. The acts he and the other children were forced to participate in were not their fault. It is the fault of their handlers who gave them the drugs in order to keep them in line. The decisions they made changed those boys in the end, but fate had nothing to do with their capture. Those adults made the choice to take children and use them to win their war. Their actions changed those children's lives forever, but fate played no role in any of their decisions. Arthur Miller's play The Crucible also had elements of free will to it. A woman named Abigail Williams was in love with a man named John Proctor, and actually had a thing with him. But he was married and loved his wife, unfortunately for Abby. Because of this, she went to the woods with her friends and started dancing. It wasn't completely specified that they were performing a spell, but with the information gathered, we can assume they were. Paris popped out of a bush and immediately assumed they were casting a spell, dragging Abby and a passed-out Betty with him. When Paris got on her case about it, she blamed Tituba, saying, "I never sold myself. I'm a good girl. I did drink of the kettle. She made me do it. She made Betty do it." After hearing that, Tituba blamed Abigail for orchestrating the whole thing, but she was still condemned. Abigail then continued to blame more of her friends, calling them witches and getting away with it. She had hundreds of people killed for being witches and got off completely free with no complications. Through the whole story, Abigail lied countless times to get out of things and got multiple people killed without facing any consequences. These were choices she made without being compelled into, but because she wanted to. In Hills Like White Elephants, a man and a girl went through the complicated process of deciding whether a girl should get an abortion or not. It was a very rough decision, but in the end, the man and the girl both agreed to go through with the operation. This was a very rough decision, and it showed the hard choices that people have to make in life. This article represents the issues people were facing during the times of McCarthyism. McCarthyism is a campaign or practice that endorses the use of unfair allegations and investigations, and from 1950 to 1954, it was a very prominent topic. That was a very important time, the years of the Red Scare, when people were afraid of communist spread coming to the United States. Joseph McCarthy had plans for a witch hunt like Abigail. He accused multiple people of being communists and actually had some people deported. He made the choice to accuse without any sort of evidence, while other people made the choice to accept his lies for truth. Countless people believing their whole lives are governed by fate. They don't believe their decisions matter, so they will continue to live without thinking of the consequences of their actions. Although there is a part of the belief of fate that makes people continue to go forward, it also keeps people from realizing the moments they are in, because they're looking towards the final goal without realizing what's in front of them. It only makes sense that people's decisions are the biggest part that leads them to where they are supposed to end up.